Towers. We're at the George Washington Bridge right now. Lots of smoke coming from that direction. We're on our way to go check that out. I'm Brian McKinley in the Bloomberg 1130 chopper.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there.
Apparently, a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center.
On September 11th, 2001, I was working for video production, and we were putting together an infomercial. So I had been there with cast and crew since 5 o'clock in the morning. We were in a little tiny studio all morning, and I missed the first plane. I had no idea. None of us did. We took a break, and when we came out, the rest of the company was sitting around the television watching what was going on, watching the first tower. And as we stood there, we saw the second hit. Honestly, what can you say when something like that happens? We just stood there dumbfounded.
During the events of 9/11, I was in college at the time. I was at UNCW, and it was about 8:40, I feel like, that they canceled our class. So I actually went to the place where a lot of the students would go, to the Hawk's Nest, where they had food and lunch and TVs all the way around. And I really didn't know what was going on until I saw on TV one of the planes had already struck the World Trade Center. And as that was going on, that's when we realized that's why we got out of class at the time. And then the second plane hit.
Something else just hit. A very large plane just flew directly over my building, and there's been another collision. Can you see it?
It was my third week at college, and I went to school at Villanova in Philadelphia, which I'm from New York originally, and so I'm from upstate, but spent a lot of time in the city. And that day, a girl told me in one of my classes that a plane hit the World Trade Center. And in my mind, I thought a propeller plane, a small commuter. Terrorism didn't come to my mind. And she actually said, I think two did. And in my mind, I just thought, people are stupid. You're not supposed to fly those planes in New York City. It wasn't until I got back to my dorm and I noticed there was kind of a weird vibe. And I went to my friend's room, and I walked in, and the first thing I saw was the tower going down. So his TV was there. And I just got chills saying it again. It's 14 years later, I still get chills thinking about watching that scene.
At that time, I was leading a call center in Hanover, Maryland for Northwest Airlines, which is now Delta Airlines. So we had 200 people working that day answering the phones for customers who were calling in about flight information to change their plans. And about 9 o'clock, people came running in from the lunchroom and said, a plane has hit the Twin Towers. The plane's hit the Twin Towers. So I ran out to the TV, and the first thing I thought of is, oh, this had to be a small little plane that hit the towers. And then it became evident that it was a huge 747 plane.
During 9/11, 2001, I was on a job at CarMax out at Dulles Airport, and my employees and I were working together on a particular car, and all of a sudden we just heard an explosion, boom. And that was when that plane hit the Pentagon. So we stopped what we were doing and looked at each other, and we couldn't see anything. All we knew, something bad had happened. So we turned on a radio in one of the cars, and we heard, well, there was an explosion in New York City at the World Trade Center. So then once we heard that, we said, oh gee, something really bad is going on around the country.
You know, it's 2001, we had the internet, but it's, wasn't the internet we have today. Things were going slow, and so you're hearing stories, oh, there's 15 planes unaccounted for. There's ones going here, there's ones going there. You hear about the Pentagon, you hear about the one crashing outside of Pennsylvania, which, being where I was in Pennsylvania, a lot of people were from around that area. So it had an effect on them. And then you're hearing things like, oh, planes are shooting ones down. There was a lot of misinformation out there. And so you really didn't know what was happening. I had a friend who was supposed to work there at the World Trade Center that day. I didn't know how he was for 3 straight days. Luckily, he didn't go into work that day. A girl at my school, a freshman who I didn't know at the time but knew later, her mom called her from one of the planes.
That there were 4 total planes that were hit, 2 at the Twin Towers, one that hit the Pentagon and one that hit in Pennsylvania. We thought it was heading to White House. So we got this urgent call from our CEO, our president of Northwest Airlines, and said, all right, we've got to get all of our planes out of the sky, because we didn't know. No one knew. Were there more planes? Were these first 4 just the beginning? So we had to really kind of set the stage.
After that, I remember there was a phone call, and it was from WECT, the local news station I was working at the time. And they asked me to come in, that they had confirmation that it seemed to be a terrorist attack. So I had to go to that local news station and receive all of the video footage that was being sent via satellite. It was a wire transmission that we received from North Carolina. And the New York feed had all this raw footage, which just means it's unedited. A lot of the stuff that I saw is finally released. It's finally shown in documentaries and looked at as 9/11 footage. But the stuff I could grab was the actual flying of the plane, going into it, so it was from a far distance. We had approval of that. We had it when the buildings were going down and people were running. But the other stuff, the stuff that no person should ever have the opportunity or to see, it does shape just the way you view things and how you view life.
When all of that was occurring and not being in a position to help, I felt really, really bad. You feel helpless. However, you feel relieved to see that our first responders, to include those individuals who are service members who were close to any of the action, how they got activated, okay, because of the loss of human dignity by this huge tragedy. Whether it was in New York City, the Pentagon, or in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. If you were in any way, shape, or form close to that and being a part of it, you know, it's only human dignity to go assist and do the best you can to save as many lives as you possibly can.
So if we were to look at dignity and stuff, I do believe that there were tons of servicemen who just showed dignity, and the firefighters, the police officers, the paramedics, all the people on the reserves who gave their life, they go into the danger. And that's just incredible. While other people are trying to get out of the danger, they go into the danger, and that just takes tons of dignity.
I really thought about leaving school to go be a New York City firefighter. In fact, I had pretty much started making arrangements. And I told my mom, and she said, that's very honorable of you, but I will beat you up before I let that happen. So I stayed in school, but you know, to risk your life to go in there when no one else will. You're not going in there for money, you're going in there for fame. You're going in risking your life to help others. It's just something that you can't put a price on. I mean, a person who can do that, and you know, police in recent news have gotten a bad rap, but there were police officers there besides the firefighters. There was a ton of people going in there risking their lives to help other people.
Dignity is when you can feel good about the person you are and what you have done, whether somebody's looking or not. And there was a lot of police officers, firemen, and just everyday folks who ran into buildings that were going to collapse in order to try and save other people. How much more dignity can you show than your willingness to sacrifice your own life for somebody else's?
And when I think of dignity, you know, I also think of the people whom I worked with, where there were moments when they really didn't want to take care of business. They really wanted to just go home, but you know, they took their job, you know, their pride and their dignity in what they did, and made sure that everyone whose calls, you know, were coming in were being taken care of.
Even journalists, reporters, they have authorization, they have press passes to get them in the line of danger 24/7, and there were tons of cameramen. There were more cameramen than there were reporters who actually went out there to shoot footage because that's what they needed. and they put their lives on the line every day. And unfortunately, a lot of times we don't look and realize that journalists, cameramen, people, news broadcasters, unfortunately, they also are in the line of danger sometimes. And sometimes they risk their life just to give you the pertinent information that's needed to disseminate to the United States.
I'd like to thank all of the brave men and women, firefighters, police officers, our first responders. You know, this day is a significant day in remembering that tragic day and all of the bravery that they have shown, the heroism, you know, to stand up and in the face of adversity went out there and did what they had to do. So that's the dignity, that's our human dignity, that's what America is all about.